Don't judge a book by its cover. Don't look at the cover and say, I know what's in that book, because you don't. Hey there, Coach Devin here. I want to talk a little bit about finished products. And I don't mean finished products as in the things that you would buy at the store. I'm talking about finished products with people. People being finished products. So to give you an idea on this, I get a lot of this type of stuff when I'm around clients or new clients or I meet people. Quite often people say to me, oh, well, it's easy for you. You've been fit your whole life. Or they say, oh, it's easy for you. You've been big your whole life. You've been muscular your whole life. Or something along those lines. That's usually the thought and the comments that I get. And what's interesting about that is it's not real. It's not true. That's not actually who I am. So a little bit of background story before we get into other stuff. So for me, I was a very shy, awkward, probably socially awkward, and I would assume a little bit, I don't know, maybe I had some anxiety. I don't know for sure, but I was a very awkward, shy kid. Didn't have a lot of friends. It's not that I didn't get along with people. It's that I was very, very uncomfortable. I lived a lot in my own mind. I thought people didn't like me very much. Didn't have a lot of friends. Felt super uncomfortable in any situation, every situation, really, to be quite honest. I just was a super awkward, uncomfortable kid. And at 14 years old, I decided, you know what, I'm going to start exercising. I was like, okay, that's what I want to do. I want to exercise some. So over time, my brother and my mom and dad had bought this weight set for my brother when he was, I forget how old I was when he got it. Some of those old, the Weider weight sets, right? You know, the ones with the plastic and the concrete inside. Like, anyway, my brother would work out with it for a bit. He went to university, and I decided at 14 years old, you know what, I'm going to start exercising. That's it. I want to get bigger. You know, I don't like being picked on at school. Don't like people beating me up at school anymore. That stuff's not fun. I'm going to change my life, right? That's what I decided. And lots of us have all been there and done that, right? We've felt like, hey, shoot, I'm going to change my life and do things differently. I've been there too. That was me. And I started to exercise. I remember the first time I bench pressed 60 pounds, I thought I was like He-Man, right? Upstairs in my parents' place, bench pressing 60 pounds. Now, why do I tell that story? Well, I'm telling that story because I was a super skinny, shy, reticent, uncomfortable, awkward kid. I'm not that now. Anybody who knows me knows I'm very different than that nowadays. But that doesn't mean that kid wasn't in there. I didn't grow up with a lot of money. My family made a decision. My mom and dad, I should say my family. My mom and dad made a decision. They wanted to move to Canada. They didn't like the way the U.S. was going. They wanted to live on a farm. They went from being middle income in Chicago to, not having a lot of money. We never were hungry, but that's because we had a farm. So I grew up in a very different environment than a lot of people have grown up in. And the reason I tell that story is because people will look at me and say, you're a finished product, you're muscular, you got tattoos, shave your head, you got earrings. I'm a farm kid. I grew up on a farm from the time I was little. I moved to Canada. I'm a first-generation immigrant. I moved to Canada as a first-generation immigrant. I was a little kid. What you see on the surface for people is not what you get. People assume a lot of things about me when they meet me, and none of them are true. I had somebody online one time said to me, well, it was easy for you to own a business. You come from money. And I'm like, no, my parents were entrepreneurs. My brother's an entrepreneur. My sister's an entrepreneur. It doesn't mean we come from money. We didn't have very much money growing up. In fact, we had less money than all my friends had. So that's where I come from. And like I said, the reason I'm telling that story is because people often, you look at the finished product of somebody. You look at where they are right now and you say, that's what I want to be, or that's what I don't want to be, or that's who they have always been. I'm fortunate enough that I get to work with a lot of high income earners, right? I mean, what I sell is not super cheap if you're talking one-on-one training. If you're talking one-on-one training with me, it's more expensive. So I tend to deal with people who have some money, who have been successful in their lives. And the one thing that I can tell you is none of them are coming from buttloads of cash, for lack of a better term. Most of them have ground their way up and made a bunch of money based on the fact they just worked their butts off. They ground at it, they worked at it. I have clients trained for a long time, good friends of mine, and they will tell a story about how they didn't know how they were going to pay bills when they were first married, and they were like robbing Peter to pay Paul. Like one bill gets paid this month, one bill gets paid that month, because they didn't have any money. They're very, very wealthy now, but you wouldn't have known that, 30 years ago because they didn't have any money. So what I'm trying to say here, I think what's important is in fitness, when you look at somebody's body, but even more so just in everyday life, don't judge a book by its cover. We're judging books a lot nowadays, I think, by the cover. We look at social media and we say, okay, that's who that person is. Well, that's who that person has become. That's who they've become. It doesn't necessarily mean that's who they are. It doesn't mean that's where they came from. And I have a new client, and one thing that he said to me today, which struck me a little bit, he said, to know somebody, you have to know where they came from. You need to know the whole story. Well, now you know some of my whole story, and it's not, hey, this guy has always been super fit, first kid picked, charmed life. That's not fact. That's not real, right? What we need to do, I think, as all people, and we all do it, and it's human nature, and I get it, but we got to take a step back. Just because somebody's attractive does not mean they've always been attractive. Just because somebody has money doesn't mean they've ripped anybody off, nor does it mean that they've always had money. Right? They may have come from nothing. Just because somebody's fit doesn't mean they don't understand what you're going through trying to get fit. Just because somebody is unfit doesn't mean they haven't been fit in the past, doesn't mean that they're not working hard right now, this very minute, trying to get more fit. We can't judge people by the way they look. Let's judge people by who they are. My mom and dad were big on that. They said, you know what, you don't judge people by sex, skin color, hair color, eye color, sexual orientation. None of that matters. Judge them on who they are as a person. I never realized how progressive my parents were until I got older. And then I went, wow, okay, wait a second. Not everybody believes that stuff. My mom and dad now, my dad's 84 years old almost. He would fit in now with society very, very well because he's believed that stuff his whole life. I'm fortunate enough to have grown up in that environment, but you know what? I find myself sometimes judging people by the car they drive, the way they dress, how they look, whatever, and we all have to take a step back and stop doing that. So let's all challenge ourselves not to judge people don't judge a book by its cover. Don't look at the cover and say, I know what's in that book, because you don't. And I don't, nobody does. I think that's an important lesson that we all have to learn and think about these days. If you have comments, questions, have you been judged before yourself? Write it up down below. I'd like to hear from you. I think everybody has a story, and you know what? Every story is interesting, and I love hearing new stories. Have yourself an amazing day, everybody. Don't fight the awesome.